Hello again. Well, I imagine it won't be too long before we learn the decision that the grand jury, who's been listening for months to evidence being presented by the prosecution in the shooting of Michael Brown by Officer Darren Wilson. We'll see. What do you think will happen if they find insufficient evidence to hold the officer over for trial? There is not much left of Ferguson, Missouri. You think the rest of it will be burnt to the ground? I'm inclined to think that riots will break out, not only in Ferguson, Missouri, but in other large black-dominated areas across the country. What will happen if he's found to be guilty, in the sense of having sufficient evidence to move forward with a trial, if a true bill is presented? What will that do? You know, it's a lose-lose kind of a situation, is it not? It doesn't matter what happens. None of it's good for America. You have to ask yourself a question. Who put the fuel on the fire in Ferguson, Missouri? How many blacks do you think have died in Chicago, been murdered in Chicago, since the grand jury first was seated? I'm going to try to look into that. I got to believe it'll be a staggering number of individuals. How come the Attorney General, Eric H. Holder Jr., hasn't gone to Chicago? Why hasn't Al Sharpton gone to Chicago? Why hasn't Jesse Jackson gone to Chicago and marched in the streets? Why hasn't the Attorney General, Eric H. Holder, contacted the families of those that have been shot needlessly in the streets by other blacks? That's why, because they were killed by other blacks. The only time that this administration ever gets involved is if it's a white-on-black shooting. If it's a radical extremist Muslim Arab, like Major Nadal Hassan, then it's considered workplace violence. Islam could never be responsible for anything as horrific as what happened at Fort Hood, could it? Now, this isn't about Fort Hood. This is about this corrupt criminal administration that fuels the flame of hatred, fuels the flames to divide blacks from whites, whites from blacks, poor from rich, rich from poor. That's all they've ever done. Well, like I said, it'll be interesting to see what happens, because I think the grand jury is going to have to come to some kind of a decision. What about that idiotic governor, Nixon, in Missouri? He should have been replaced with the stupid comments that he made. And as I said in previous videos, all of the cases that he was responsible for as a prosecutor need to be investigated, because we obviously know where he sides. We'll see. Like I said, no matter how this shakes out, it's a lose-lose. But I'm pretty much convinced that if the grand jury comes back with a non-true bill, in other words, there'll be no further charges laid, there'll be no trial, blood will be rolling in the streets, not just in Ferguson. That's what I think. So what do you think?